On this episode, I'm with Jake Arnold, a back-to-back national decathlon champion, a two-time world champion competitor, Olympic alternate, and was inducted into the University of Arizona Hall of Fame.
Bear down.
Am I missing anything?
Yes, a few things. I was four-time U.S. national champion, but also, I was 2016 residential agent of the year for the Daily Star and 2017 commercial agent of the year for the Daily Star.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on ROI, by the way.
Hello, welcome to episode 2 of ROI, Return on Investment podcast. Very excited to be here again. It was awesome recording the episode 1 with Ben Reilly. It was awesome. We have another great guest with us today. Want to talk a little bit about why we're here. If you didn't catch the first episode, we're here to help people kind of learn from real estate professionals, kind of hear their story from how they began in real estate investing and what they've done to get to the level that they're at. So we have a great guest with us. It's a great story that he has. Jake, very excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Jake, talk a little bit about your story. How did you get started in real estate? Just tell us, when you were 18, what did you do? Tell us that story.
So I got into real estate way before that.
Okay.
My mom was a real estate agent, and my dad was in lumber sales, so building houses. He built our house when I was back in, first grade. So I got to watch that whole process go. So my life was always surrounded somewhat by houses. So when I moved down to Tucson as a freshman, I really looked at the housing industry down here, and houses were $60,000, and I told my parents, and they're like, "What?" Because we're from Northern California.
It's a little different market up there.
It's a little different. So started talking to them over the years during college, but they weren't, ready to dig into that. But after I got done with college, unfortunately, it was 2007, so we started looking, but we knew exactly what was going on in the market and everything. So it took until about November of 2008 before I bought my first house.
So tell us, you came to the U of A. You have an interesting story with that, just being in college. Tell us a little bit about you weren't just a student. You're something else, too.
No, so I actually was a walk-on to the University of Arizona track team. Back in fall of 2002, I started college, and I went on to become a decathlete with the team, and they ended up being a two-time national champion in 2006 and 2007 for the University of Arizona. Went on to run professionally for ASICS. Became a four-time U.S. champion, alternate to the Olympics, two-time world championships competitor. Had a great career in track until I had back surgery. Okay. But during that time, I was doing real estate as well.
I don't know how you did that. That's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Running professional track and then you're doing real estate investing on the side. So yeah. Tell us, so like you said, you were interested before you were in college. Mm-hmm. But you came to Tucson and you realized the housing market was a lot cheaper than other markets, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that first deal that you did.
Well, the first deal actually was after college. So like I said, November 2008, I was actually looking for a house for myself because I had decided to stay down in Tucson to compete in track and, go for the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So at that point in time, I was finding a house for me, but I was going to remodel it. So found one, and I remodeled the entire house myself.
Did you know much about construction when you did that?
Just really minimal stuff. Like I said, I grew up around it, so you really got to know stuff without actually thinking you know it. But it all came back to me, and then I would hire guys, and I would say, "Hey, teach me if I'm going to hire you." And so they kind of taught me through the process. But I did the whole thing. My dad came down, helped me demo the entire house, and I lived in it while this was happening. And got the whole remodel done. There was a like a workshop off the garage that we turned into a 4th bedroom, 3rd bath. And, after that, I got 3 roommates, and I was living there making money every month is pretty much what ended up happening with my first deal.
So you did some remodeling and you house hacked.
Yes.
You lived for free.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how a lot of people get started.
It's the best way that I've found so far.
So that's awesome. So how many deals did you end up doing while you were running professionally? Do you remember? Do you have a number on that?
I have about 4 that I
4.
did. Yeah, like I said, I did house hacking. So I would live in one, remodel it while I was training. So then I would go home and work on the house. I did that for 4 years straight. I would buy a house a year, fix it up, do that, rent it out on the college cycle for the University of Arizona. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years while I was doing track.
Okay, so when did you realize that it was about time to start getting your real estate license? Because you're a licensed agent now on the team.
Right. I actually got my license in 2010.
Okay.
With my mom having her license, I kind of just relied on her to get the referral fee from an agent down here.
Sure.
I got hooked up with a pole vaulter who was older, an Olympian. His wife was a real estate agent, and he was flipping houses back in 2007, 2008. And so they helped me find my first house to flip and kind of helped me out with that process. So I did 2 with her, and then she got out of real estate, and they've been doing other stuff. But that got me going. And then 2010, I got my license because I actually was going to start a company a lot like what Apex Team is with some buddies. But they ended up moving out to Long Beach and starting it out there.
Got it.
One of the guys was supposed to be a hybrid going back and forth. He kind of just stayed out there. And with training for track, I couldn't do that. My houses as well as, be the guy on the ground here.
So where did Ben come into play? Because you kind of met each other and realized that you had an opportunity to build a company. When did that happen in that time frame?
So actually in fall of 2011, I met Ben. I watched the other podcast and
you tell us your version of that story.
It was a house that was on the market for $35,000. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, like 1,200 square feet, and it was on for $35,000. And so there was a bidding war. There was 13 bids.
Oh my gosh!
And I ended up getting it for $45,000. And not a week afterwards, my dad was helping me out again to start it, and Ben walks up to the door and goes, "Hey, I want to buy the house." And we start getting talking, and great guy. I'm always been able to talk to people and kind of see through a lot of the crap that they might say. And Ben was very genuine, knew what he's talking about.
Sure.
Had been around it. So actually, it was my dad. He's like, you need to keep this guy around and talk to him. So I ended up getting Ben's number, and we kept in touch. Right as he was leaving, though, he's like, "So how much did you end up paying for this?"
Oh.
And I was like 45, and I think I beat him out by like $1,000 or somewhere in that range. It was not very much for having 13 offers out there, and so I ended up keeping that house, remodeling it myself, living in it, and it's one of my rentals in my portfolio now as well.
It still is. You still own it to this day.
Yep.
Oh, probably getting good returns on that one.
Very good returns on that one.
So you met Ben. Ben mentioned you guys have partnered and done a lot of properties on that same street.
Yes.
Now you've kind of pushed up the market on that street alone. And we've noticed that to this day, right?
Right. We've
Pretty
almost
much
priced ourselves out of it.
Wow. That's crazy. If you drive down a certain street in Tucson, Arizona, you'll see about 30 houses that have been remodeled, and they all look very similar.
Yeah, all of them really have had about 1,000 square feet added to them. So it's crazy change compared to what's still in that neighborhood.
So, as people really don't know, I learned a lot from you. When I joined the team, it's an interesting experience. Jake is one of the most knowledgeable people in the field to this day in Tucson that I think. And he taught me so much when I first joined about investing and how to identify a good deal.
Correct.
When I think in the first few months, I would show you a property and you would tell me everything wrong with it, that why it wasn't a good deal. And then if I thought something wasn't a good deal, you would turn it around to show me why it was a good deal. So as an investor and as a real estate agent who's helping investors buy property for themselves, what kind of things are you looking for to determine what a good deal is? I know there's a lot that goes into that.
I was going to say it just depends on the investor.
Sure.
So my big thing is always find out what the investor likes. So if, they're looking for a long-term rental up front, it's finding that rental that may be a little undermarketed, undermanaged,
Sure.
could use a rehab, something that would bring the value up. But I'm not looking for that flip type house where I need to make $30,000-$40,000 on an equity on the back end. So that margin can be a little bit closer on the equity side as long as the numbers work. As also is, a year from now, when you get it on a cycle, is it going to rent for more? Because in the beginning, somebody's mismanaged or not done well, or there's something wrong with it. So I look for those type of houses, and that in a year, you're going to have that really great return that you didn't have a year before, because you finally get that year under your belt with managing it, doing the updates you need to do, the capital improvements. So I really look for those. And how I found those is, looking behind the screen is the best way to say it. You go into a house, like I had my first house, it had a workshop off the garage. Well, it didn't have a door into the house. Well, you can cut a door through a brick wall. Cut the door through there. It was a 30 by 15 room, and you added a bathroom and a bedroom to it, and now I had a 4-3 rental. I looked for dining rooms that you just seal up the door or wall it in, and you have a fourth bedroom or a third bedroom. So I've done that to a ton of properties, and that's really how I got started and looked for stuff. But I still look for that creative way to look at different houses and different properties and what they can do. Depends on the investor.
Sure.
I had a fourplex that when you looked at it, the rents were $750 a month. But I knew that they could be $950 because I found out, they're 2-bedroom, 1 bath, less than a block away from campus here at University of Arizona. And somebody was just mismanaging it and ended up getting that property. And I own that one now because I had 5 investors tell me, no, they didn't want to buy it. And so I went and bought it myself. And now they look back and they're like, oh, I see.
Like, dang, I want that deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Jake's really good at identifying. What I've come to see a lot, especially, it's going to vary with other markets, but lot splitting is a huge thing in our market, and that's where we're seeing a lot of value.
Right.
So what kind of things are you looking for as far as the lot itself? Like, maybe it's not even the house. What kind of requirements does that take to maybe see the hidden value with a lot split?
Well, down here in Tucson, a 12,000 square foot lot. You can split one at 10,000, but you have to have 6,000 square feet to actually develop on it.
Okay.
So a 12,000 square foot lot or 11,000 square foot lot is what we look for a split, because I could split off the existing home with 5,000 square feet because it's already there, and then I have 6,000 to actually develop on. So for lot splits, you're kind of looking for that extra square footage. Also, if it's an R2, you can build more units, the bigger the lot.
What's an R2?
Residential 2, which is more of an investment. You can have up to 5 bedrooms.
Okay.
But then that exponentially gets bigger if the lot's bigger. So for an R3, which is residential 3, which is kind of apartments, you can have 36 units on an acre. So there's different ones depending, but R2s are the bigger ones. R1s are just a single family home, but the lot needs to be about 10,000 square feet to add a guest house. So, you have to look at all those different things about city regulations when you're looking at those.
As you can tell, he knows a lot about that kind of stuff. It's very, very good. So we recently closed on a 6-plex.
Correct.
You remember Lee Street?
Yeah.
The play essentially there is to do some rehabbing, but the big play there is to do a lot split. Tell us a little bit about that deal and why it's more valuable than just leaving it the way it is.
Right. So that one was 3 duplexes on one lot. The idea is then if you have 5 or more units, it's technically commercial. So financing is a very tough thing on commercial. It's very different than the residential, whereas a 4-plex or a 3-plex or 2-plex can be residential funding and lending. So our big thing is splitting one of those duplexes off, making it a 4-plex, so it's residential financing, and then the duplex is residential financing. You have a bigger pool of investors that can do that, as well as you could sell one off and keep one, and then you have less cash in the game there, and your cash on cash is a lot higher.
And what we've noticed is that one, there's a 4-plex going to be for sale soon.
Correct.
With that one, and if that one sells at the value it's at, then the company will have $50,000 in equity from the get-go.
Correct. Yeah, just from that 4-plex.
Without even touching it.
Right.
Without even touching it. So it's things like that, identifying things beyond below the surface that essentially adds more value. It's pretty much hidden. And Jake is the best in identifying it, and I go to him for constant advice about a specific deal to see if there's hidden value. So you did a lot of investing while you were running track. We kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they talk to me, saying, Scott, I want to get started in real estate, but I just don't have time. How did you find time in your life as a full-time professional athlete to do real estate on the side, and how did you manage that?
I knew when my schedule was for track. It was pretty much at nights. You have to take the hours you get in the day. So I'd get done with 6 hours of practice and go home and do some kind of project at the house. If it was something I knew I needed done and I need 4 or 5 hours, maybe I kept it for the weekend. So I try to find stuff little that I could do during the week. Or it's, managing some guys that could do some stuff.
Sure.
So I would hire people to do some of the major stuff and just making sure they showed up. So I'd have to let them in the house, make sure they showed up. It's a big thing. It's like you'd be amazed at how many people just don't show up. And so, we had that happen a couple times on some of my projects.
And that's why we have Noel on the team, because Noel's very reliable. That's why you and Ben kind of latched on to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's reliable. He's one of the best in the business.
Having a reliable construction person is a huge thing in our industry, is, building that relationship.
So now we're going to go into the famous lightning round.
All right.
I know if you listen to episode number 1, Ben did not do lightning round. He took forever to answer the question. So I'm gonna time you. All right, so I'm gonna pull out my timer. You're gonna have 20 seconds per question. Okay.
All right.
Sound good? Because I know.
Why does Ben get more time?
Because this is the first episode, but we gotta step it up. Episode 2. Okay. Tell me about your. Let me see. What is your favorite real estate or business book that you've ever read?
MREI.
MREI. What is that?
Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
And who wrote that one?
Gary Keller.
Gary Keller.
But I will say there's a couple other books. That's a hard one just to say one. So that's for real estate. But I would recommend The Miracle Morning, which is something, starting your day off right is a huge one. And then the Split the Difference. If you want to be a negotiator and do sales, you can't pass that book up.
What's the weirdest deal that you've ever been involved in?
Oh, man, I have to think about a couple of those. I ended up having a buyer that was going through the process, and we were almost done with it, and all of a sudden they just were like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. And they got cold feet, and it was just one of the weirdest situations ever. It was all of a sudden they just got cold feet. So for that one, they all of a sudden just really literally like a week before, I'm like, you're going to lose your earnest money. You're going to do this. And they're like, that's fine. Ooh. And it was just very interesting. I think they might have had money problems, but then they never talked to me again. So I think it was that side of it, but it was just very weird, because it was early on when I was really starting to do the sales side. And for me, that was just like,
it was an eye opener.
This is a great deal and we're going to lose it here. So that was a weird one. The other weird ones is walking into a house that you literally are like, this thing's going to fall down. Those ones
we should have a hard hat on.
Very interesting. I've walked into them with dead cats, bums in them. You talk about floors. There's holes in the floors. Like, you have to wear a hard hat to go in here. The roof was falling in. Like, those are some weird deals that you would walk into. And
we could talk about one. We can take a little bit more time, but I want you to talk about the apartment deal that you lost out on. You talk a little bit. I know it hurts your heart to talk about it, but
so back in 2010, out here there was a 70-unit apartment complex in Campbell and Fort Lowell. My acupuncturist actually talked to me about it because he got it in his newsletter that this Section 8 homing was being closed down and going to be auctioned out because they weren't taking care of it, and it was run down all over the place. So I told my buddies that I was trying to start the company with, like I said, they kind of fell off and went to Long Beach. I was figuring, it might go to auction for close to $1 million, like something like that in that prime area was unheard of. And so I told them about it, and I was like, the auction's going to be this day. What can we do? I thought they were going to the auction. They were like, oh, we got busy. And they didn't go to the auction. Well, end up finding out nobody went to that auction for it. The next day it sold for $25,000 for paying off the tax lien. And it just recently got sold for $6 million. So you're looking at it probably take about $1 million to fix that place up, give or take. And
that's the retirement deal.
Literally, if I got that deal, I wouldn't be working right now. So that's kind of one that hurt. I had money in my bank. I could have bought that myself, but I didn't go to the auction because I was relying on other people. And it's been one thing I've never done again. It's if they haven't confirmed exactly where they're going to be, I'll go do it myself.
I didn't know about that deal until today. And,
it's not one I talk about.
And I know, but that's why we have this show, is to let people know that people that are very successful in the business, they miss out on good opportunities too.
Yeah, and that was earlier on. It was 2010. I was maybe 2 years into really understanding it. But that one I learned a lot off of and dictates a lot of what I do now.
Yeah. So can you give me 3 goals that you want to accomplish this in the near future? So 1 to 3 years. It could be personal or business related.
Increase my portfolio.
What are you at now?
I'm at 8 properties with my brother. We split them 50-50. My big thing is to have a portfolio of those as my retirement fund more than anything. That's what I'm really looking at is, pay them off if I'm 50, 60 years old and make sure that I'm just living off the passive income. Nowadays, that seems more stable than any retirement funds or stocks or anything that I'm looking at. We're
starting to see a lot of people go into that realm. People in 50, 60-year-old range, they want to start building their portfolio because the retirement isn't as strenuous as they thought it was.
Right, exactly. Or they're not getting the returns they thought they were when they were investing in those 401ks. I have all that stuff too. I'm going to be, you can never be all your eggs in one basket. That's for sure. Even in real estate investing, I have a 4-plex, I have a 3-plex, I have multiple single families.
You still house hack too.
Yeah, I do.
So, you do really well in real estate and you're still house hacking.
Yeah, until my girlfriend moves down here and then I'm in trouble. Yeah.
I got you. So that was goal number 1? Yeah,
so that's goal number 1 is really getting that portfolio up. Goal number 2, we have the commercial here at the Apex team, but it's just building it to something that's a lot bigger. So that's one of my focuses. So I was in residential sales for a while and helping get that built, and we kind of passed it off. So it's, been doing the commercial for a while, but it's really ramping that up and seeing that as well as, building that deal flow.
So in an ideal world, what do you want that commercial team to look like?
I want to be able to do every part of commercial, from industrial to office to retail to multifamilies. Big one we're focused on right now is multifamilies. It's a huge market down here in Tucson, but I also want to be able to look at that and, put a system in line so I can go move to another city, not myself, but our team. We want to
do expansion offices.
Yeah, we want to do 3 to 5 cities. So why not have commercial? And it can run it as a hub down here, and you can do commercial all over the nation. So that's one of my second goals right now is really building that up in the next year.
And the thing I want to talk about is that you were just voted the best commercial agent in Tucson, in Southern Arizona, and it was a Reader's Choice Award. So it was people in Tucson. Voting for you, and you won that award, which is huge.
Right.
It's such a great honor. So, I am so confident you're going to do it, and I'm excited to see what that team looks like. I mean, you and I were at a meeting today, and I think we're both kind of fired up.
Yeah, no, it is. We've been building, the Apex team. We've been doing this for a lot longer, but the Apex team for about 3 years now. So every time we kind of keep moving the level. We know you can't do everything at once. So we've really focused on doing one at a time, and that's my next focus and goal.
And then goal number 3.
Well, I might as well throw a personal goal out there.
Yeah.
As the decathlete, I took 3 years off of of working out after I got done with back surgery and different stuff. So getting back into the gym this year was a big one for me. But now Ricky and Ben and I are going to be doing triathlons. So we're going to move into that. But it's also just getting that healthy lifestyle back. Yeah. Eating right, getting in the gym, multiple times in a week. I mean, I'm 33 years old, but, I'm going to be living a lot longer than that. So it's making sure that I'm healthy now to have a longer life.
Awesome. And then what are some hobbies you do outside of real estate? So you're a real estate guru. You're great at that. But what do you do in your free time?
I love to travel. Is one of my hobbies.
You probably travel the most out of anyone I've ever met. I feel like you're on a plane every weekend.
Well, that's also to see my girlfriend, which I'm doing long distance. So, that changes things. But traveling the world and seeing different cultures. I was able to do that while doing track, but not enjoy the places I went. So I really want to go back. Love snowboarding, outdoor sports, anything I can do, active outside has been great for me. But, for those hobbies right now, Some of them have taken a little bit of a backseat,
Sure.
just trying to build the company. But there's definitely a ton out there that I want to experience and do and learn. So I'm definitely going to be adding to that list more and more as we go forward.
That's awesome. So you heard it here first. You were national NCAA champion, decathlete, 2-time. You were a walk-on at the university. After that, you began your real estate career while you were running professional track, and you've slowly built one of the top real estate teams in Southern Arizona.
Yeah.
As far as investment and just residential sales. So if you can reach out to Jake and have a conversation with him, he is one of the smartest guys that I've ever met. And people will come to you at the meeting we were at today. He was asking you on advice. The big agent in town, I'm going to be honest, a big agent in town asked you for advice on his own investment portfolio.
Yes. And that happens quite a bit.
Yeah. So that says something to the type of person and type of knowledge that Jake has. And if you can set aside some time to talk with him and he can kind of guide you to what you need to do, I really recommend it. And Jake, you've taught me a lot. You've really been you've had a huge impact on my life. And a lot of people in our office are investing in real estate, and you've kind of led the way. And it's nothing but great things from Jake Arnold. So.
Yeah, well, that's what we want to do here at the Apex team is, we're a different type of business culture, and we want, I could take all those investments or, take all the sales, but that's not how we are. We want to better everyone that's around us. Mm-hmm. That's, one of the things the Apex team's always about is really bettering people and having the people on there that really can go forward and, explore their dreams and see the things they want to see.
Yeah. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you lasted this long, we want to thank you for sticking around with us, and stay tuned for episode number 3. It's going to be coming out next week as well. And if you haven't listened to episode 1, I highly recommend that. I know, Jake, you listened to episode 1, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I got to see if Ben said anything bad about me. So
I know we did talk about your first interaction, but everyone, thank you so much for listening and or watching on YouTube. And stay tuned for episode number 3. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
On this episode, we're with Jake Arnold.
How's everyone doing?
No, don't talk.
You want me to talk?
Don't talk.
Well, dude, you should have done this originally instead of making me introduce myself.
No, the reason we do this
I'm just kidding.
is, well, you're really the buster.
Master.